Hi everyone, welcome to Brian Sebastian's Movie Reviews and More. Today we have a very special guest. It is Big Rich from the Big Rich and Kim Aston Show. He is the founder and owner of BRRS Media, which usually likes to step outside the box. He's fearless, he's tough, he covers topics like paranormal investigations, alien encounters, and he did a multiple-part series on who shot JFK. He was just named one of the top 50 most watched, most popular podcasts in the world. Everyone, I'd love to introduce you, Mr. Rich Wheeler.
Oh, thank you. That was sweet. That is probably the nicest thing I've heard since, I guess, my mom sent me a birthday.
So, Big Rich, you live by the motto, everyone has a story to tell.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us your story and how you started BRRS Media and why?
Okay. I've always been into music, poetry, art. Growing up as a child, I've always had my finger on the pulse. Even when I worked for other companies, like let's say I worked for Miller Brewing Company when I was in Memphis, Tennessee. I still met connections through Cream High Studios, Willie Smith, ZZ Top, Archie Ballhead Mitchell. These are influential people in the music business in Memphis. B.B. King, I actually did an interview with him. I had a magazine in Memphis at one time. So even when I worked and had a real, what I call the real job, which made my money, I always would dabble in other things, whether it was newspapers, radio, because I just had, since a child, I was always driven. I wanted to know more. I seek truth. And to me, I feel like we get, when you watch the news, you're getting a partial view that's been scripted. And I would always want to say, okay, well, there's got to be more to it than that. So I would always be the guy that you would see behind the scenes. I would go and look and try and find, okay. And it's not always good when you do that, because I would find things and people would say, hey, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be here, or things of that sort. So anyways, over the years, this evolved, and I said, I want to do something bigger and better, and I just want to be in your face. About 3 years ago, I said, I'm going to create a media company from nothing, and I gave myself a 10-year window. I want it to be like one of the biggest, where we touch on everything, but we give you the truth. And we look into things. We go and we research documents. I've had people that reach out to me and they send me, like, there's been guys, and this is all over the country and the world. He goes, here's my portfolio. There's 10,000 pages of paper. I was arrested. Then I was let go. Then they dropped the charges, then they picked the charges back up. Then they came and got me in the middle of the night, and they brought me back because I wasn't supposed to be really. And so, I get these weird stories, and then they know that I research this type of thing, and I would do that in the background. So I said, I need to take these things and get them out to the masses so that people see these crazy things that are going on in the real world. And then obviously, I was considered a conspiracy theorist, which is a shameful word. It's no more than me cursing somebody or saying the most negative thing that I could to someone, because what you're doing when you call someone a conspiracy theorist, which that word was created during the JFK assassination times. Before that, a conspiracy was something contrived between the people when they were trying to overthrow a government that they were not happy with. They were going to conspire to overtake the government. So it had nothing to do with a false story or a false narrative. This was handed to us. I know I'm getting off track a little, but this was handed to us during the times of, when JFK was going down, and they were just getting the CIA off their feet, and Project Mockingbird and all of these things were, back then they were tapping phones illegally. But so all of that kind of came to fruition, and I would watch podcasts. I would watch Alex Jones and the different paranormal ones, and I was like, man, I'm just not, I love it, but they're either too in your face, or it seems like they get bought out. And even the Joe Rogans, and I don't like to step on people's toes, but there was a point where Joe Rogan would call it down the middle. And he would say, look, man, NASA, there's a lot of CGI going on. And then they said, hey, man, you're too influential to be saying things like that. So we're going to pay you and we're going to make you the #1 podcaster in the world, but you're going to stop talking about junk like that. And you notice it broke him and his best friend up. His best friend went another direction and said, no, I'm going to keep talking about it. And, and so when his friend comes on the podcast still, and they make fun of him all the time. So I don't know. So anyways, I didn't want to be that guy where I wanted to just tell the truth and keep telling it. If somebody came and said, Big Rich, I'm going to give you $1 million, but you're going to spin the story this way, I would turn that $1 million down, because that is infringing on my integrity of who I am as a person. So that's what I built BRRS Media on. I wanted it to be facts, truth, something that when you looked at that name, that you knew it was strength. You knew that if you came to it, you're going to get the real. Now, it's just my opinion. Go find your own truth, because I don't have the answers to the life, but I do research. And if you get multiple people agreeing with the same thing, the math usually adds up, so that's how that came along. Sorry, I'm long-winded.
No. Well, they say the same thing with history books. You, on the other hand, are a living history. And they say oftentimes now, if you look back at history, it depends on the narrative and the angle, about the historical event. And that's why, when I was in university, the best place for, history almost would be for me speaking to senior citizens that were witness to things. So, no, you're not. Today, it's a slight, I think, if you have a different opinion to something they call you conspiracy theorist rather than listening to you, and, regarding Joe Rogan, I know he has said that. He said, just at least listen, but no, I appreciate that, Rich, your show, it's got a reputation of trust and integrity, and, you're ballsy because you're not afraid to push the limits. You're not afraid to expose things. And, I just think, when people don't like something, shut it off. Don't say negative things. But no, I think that's why your program and your network is growing quite a bit. And I think you're also international. You have a relationship with Wayne. And I was wondering how that came about.
Okay. I like to get out and mingle with the people. And they had this thing in Oklahoma, was called Boo on Bell Street. And it's an old street from the land run, era, the 1800s. And they have it every year. And there's paranormal groups there and this and that. And it just happened to be crappy weather. It was cold. It was rainy. We set up, my tent blew down a bazillion times. I was promoting Conspiracy Corner in the Big Rich show at the time. I had little Lisa with me. People were driving in from Texas and Kansas to meet us, to get selfies, to get shirts. It was a great time. Well, towards the end of the last day, this guy walks up to me, a little shorter guy, and he's like, hey, man, is that you on the TV? Because we had a big screen. We had a 72-inch TV playing all the shows. You could listen to them in our tent, and then you could actually go in the tent and we would interview you. And it was a great time. But it ended up being this guy, Wayne Hudgens, and he goes, man, I'm from Shawnee right here, but I live in Germany, and I've been in Germany the last 20 years. He's like, what's your thoughts on JFK? And I was like, oh man, I instantly fell in love. It was like meeting the love of your life, But I'm like, oh, you want to know? Here we go. And then we sat there and we talked until midnight. They were forcing us to break down the tent, and we stayed in touch. And his stretch is long. He has a very, very deep connection in Europe with a lot of the MMA UFC fighters, the musicians, the music companies, Bomber Music, the promoters. And I asked him one day, would you like to come on a show and do the JFK trilogy with me? And we'll put all this new info out that Trump just released. And he's like, man, I'd love, let's do it. So we did it. People loved it. It got a lot of recognition. And then he was like, man, you want to do another one? And I was like, sure. I said, how about this? Let me call you tomorrow. I want to bring you on, and I want to start growing BRRS Media and have a European division. And it will be your baby. You do whatever you want with it. within limits. And then that's how that grew. And our relationship to this day, it's not perfect. It's been up and down. But I love him like a brother from another mother. He's very vocal. And that's what I like about him is that, yeah, he's put his foot in my mouth on certain things, because not his mouth, but mine, because at the end of the day, people look to me as the image of our company. And there have been some negatives, but the positives way outweigh it. And he's a great businessman. He's very articulate. He knows how to tell a story. And I love the guy. He has increased. When he came on board, his first 6 months, he increased, I want to say, viewership and subscriptions by 300% across the board. And our JFK on Facebook alone had over 350,000 views in 1 month on Facebook. YouTube is really weird about that, because they froze it. They even froze the video I did with you when I had you on, when I interviewed you, Sherry. It got over 10,000 views in the first few hours it was up. They froze it, dropped it down to 5,000. Then they locked it. Then it made it back up to 10,000 again. They froze it. And there's no way to contact them. And this is one thing I hate about YouTube is if you go outside the lines and speak about something that they don't agree with, they will freeze you, and they will steal views, and they will steal subs. I've got documented footage of it where and I even showed you, I'm like, look, man, we're back up to 9,200 views. Then the next day it's down to 5,000.
Well, the thing about that is it's been happening a lot. I mean, I keep track of what's going on our analytics too. And when right before we were getting to, we're at 1.1 million views. So right before we were getting to there, I noticed the same thing. I was watching on 3 different computers on 2 different phones. And the only phone that I knew that was the right number, because our numbers were growing so rapidly, is YouTube, which is owned by Google, had a problem keeping up. So you, myself, and like 1 or 2 other people who were doing stuff, the numbers would be frozen. And I still see it till today. Like today, I haven't added up my numbers yet because my YouTube numbers are frozen. It's like, there's like 1,109,000. Well, I know it's between like 111, 112, but I have to wait for the number to officially go up, and then it will drop, and then it goes back up. And I haven't figured out why that does that either.
Well, it's the one problem is they're using AI. It's not even a person. So they're using these programs that if certain words are said, even if they're just using, like if you and I and Sherry are having a conversation and I say kill or murder, just the word saying, oh, did you see that Murder, She Wrote episode? It throws a red light up. So the AI will immediately freeze it to analyze it because that word was used. And that's the same. I don't want to keep saying words because I don't want it to affect your show by any means. But things is like if I simply said, I don't believe in late stage abortion, just saying that sentence would put me freezing this video until they'd have to say, oh, what if they just said the bad word? They just said the A word. We have to see what they're talking about. And these AIs just pick out, and then there's
it will say the same thing if you mention sex or gay. I know. I've been very careful on those words. That's why I like to describe everything and tag everything the right way, because yes, that is true.
Yeah. It's a boogie-boo. But I found, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dan Bongino. If you think I'm a truther, this guy's out there punching him in the mouth. I mean, he tells it like it is, and he'll tell you to kiss his ass at the end of the day. But he has found a new platform that mirrors YouTube, and that's where I'm about to take all of my business. I'm about to go there. It's called Rumble, and I will share that with you guys and your fans. It is a platform where they will not touch you for what you want to speak about. Now, of course, you can't have sex and all this crazy crap on there. Obviously, they're going to monitor that. But what I'm saying is we all have a soapbox. We all have a story to tell. And when that soapbox is taken away and we can't tell our story, then we're being censored. Going into the future, this is the future. Shows like ours, yours, mine. This is where people are going to interact. This is where they're looking for their after dinner entertainment, or if they want to be if they want to learn something or figure something out, this is where it's going. And especially when they drop the Internet of Things, and we're close. They haven't done it yet, but when Internet v.2 comes out, and that's called the Internet of Things, it is totally, when G5 is fully implemented, it is going to blow minds. You guys, I've really been researching that, and it's to the point where, wow, it's scary how much, yeah.
Are you a fan of G5?
No, not at all, man. I'll be honest
Right.
with you. I did a show about it Here's the thing with G5 basically just stands for Generation 5. We've been using it in the military since the mid 90s. So they're just releasing it now. All it is it's a radio wave that operates on the frequency level that it can manipulate water. Our bodies are 70% water. I don't worry about us as a species with G5, where we should, because that will be harmful to our bodies. I worry about the ponds and the smaller things of water, where life begins. How are these frequency levels going to affect that? If it can,
Well, I can tell you already because I see more birds dropping out of the sky.
yeah,
It's like I'll be skating around. I'm like, what happened? It's clear. It's only 100 degrees. It's nothing going on. But it's what you're saying. You
right.
know? I'm not talking about like once every 3 weeks or whatever. I'm talking about a couple days.
Yeah.
So, that's not even a coincidence. That's just here what I see in Vegas. Never mind when I go to Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm. No, it's everywhere. We see it here with the insects and the bees. Man, like my grandfather used to say, when you stop seeing the bees produce, that's when humans need to start worrying, because it all starts with pollination, and they carry the pollen around, and they're the ones that are mating the flowers and the sweet buds and the different bushes, and but like I said, man, I don't want anything inside of my body that can vibrate if you're 75% water, your body, the makeup of it, or Gatorade or Coke, whatever you drink, water, you don't want that frequency messing with you, because I fully believe that it's going to have something to do. We're going to get chipped at some point, and people can say yes or no. It's going to be forced. They're already trying to do away with coins. We're going to see coins gone. We're going to see the dollar gone. We're going to go to a world credit system. And in order to shop or spend, you're going to have this chip. And I hope that it's not in these vaccines that they're trying to push on everybody. I know that COVID is real. Look, man, you guys can go to my website and you can go to my YouTube channel. Look back last October, almost 1 year ago, before it was even in the media, I was talking about a flu that was leaking out of China. I was talking about it in October, and I said, this is going to change the face of the world. I was laughed at. You can go to my Facebook page and pull up where I was talking about it, and people called me a fearmonger.
Rich, that triggered that for you? What was it that you noticed something? How did you recognize something like that?
Connections, insider intel.
I see.
And I'm not afraid to say it, because they can't really do anything nowadays. It's so wide open. But I have information that comes in from Eurasia, from somebody that's deep in, and he says, dude, they are devastating Hong Kong with the flu right now. And if it works, you're going to see it pushed on the world. And if it works, everyone's eye is going to be on the U.S. And if the U.S. population bends its knee to this and falls in line, they're going to know they can start implementing and going forward with. And then everyone's like, well, what are they implementing? To what end? What is it? Well, I'm telling you guys, if you're not in the club, which none of us are, they look at us like worthless feeders. And I say we, and there's this 2%er club. These families have been running the country and the world since the days of Noah and before. And it's the same bloodlines. And all they want to do is find a way to live, be it forever, and be their own gods. And that's where we're coming into AI and flesh meshing, the Internet of Things, even Tesla. You got Elon Musk talking about it with his neuro mesh that they're trying to build where they can lay it over your brain and then put your scalp back on and your skull, and you can plug in, and you're going to basically be able to live in an alternate universe. We're spirit beings. So where is our spirit doing? Is our spirit uploading into the Internet of Things or into this mesh? Where is it going? How taboo is that? So these are things that I talk about. People are like, man, you're kind of crazy. But it comes to fruition, It is crazy because when you don't want to know the truth and you just want to live your 9 to 5, I'm happy with my job. I have what I want. I'm going to march to their drum and keep moving forward. That's what I call sheep. But when you look up and you're like, wait a minute, and then you leave the herd, you start seeing, man, it's a different puzzle. So I don't know.
Well, Rich, I've always said this. I go back to May, but for me, it was October 3rd, 2018, when I sent out the first email on a little bit of what you're talking about. This is why I like the Dreamweaver Artist Ranch. I wanted it to be 1,900 feet above sea level, not too high because of altitude sickness. But it was one of those things where I knew there was a virus coming, and I'm on record for saying that October 3rd, 2018. I started saying it in Tennessee, August 4th of 2018, when Terry and Victoria and I went to do our shows. And the reason I documented those days is because that's why I had the hand sanitizer, the elliptical hand sanitizer. I've had it for 5 years. We just did a show on it in Los Angeles last week where Scott Page and Mike Tanka were on it, and they loved it. So now they're going to be using it for their live shows they're putting together for musicians. And they go, Brian, well, how did you know about this? I'm like, well, intuitive knowing, but also I have things like what you have, things on the spirit side. And then when it comes to the bees, yes, we have 36 bees, Savannah bees out of Georgia and best bees out of North Carolina that will be on our property, Sherry. This is why Dreamweaver Artist Ranch is important to me, because you have to have that, you have to stop eating processed food, which is into the world of fitness. This is why you have to eat clean, because of all the stuff that's in contaminated soil or fracking or whatever the case may be. It affects all of our bodies. And so when I had Drink Real Water, I was going after water companies 6 years ago. So imagine what people thought of you. Imagine what they thought of me, a person of color, telling them this.
Right.
I didn't care, because I was always going after the views, because I'm like, this is what we have to do. And the more the views came up, the more people were starting to listen to you. So when I'm talking to the CEOs and my friends out of China, I know exactly what's going on, because some of the best technology is outside the US, unfortunately. We have fallen behind. So for the Consumer Electronics Show, there's no CES show. I'm talking to those companies right now, whether it's Segway, it's LG, GM, GE. I'm actually talking to them right now on the stuff that I want to showcase on the property. So you come in and Sherry come in and we have our shows that are going on. We're not affected by all of that stuff. And that's why I say when I'm stock proof and recession proof, it's set up that way because of all the stuff. And then back to the bees, I'll let you jump on this, was we started talking about, there's a movie called Honeyland on a lady who started helping the bees for decades. It was a family run tradition out of Romania. Very good film. And it won, did it win Best Documentary last year? I can't remember, but it's called Honeyland. So I actually talked to the director on that. This woman would always take what she needed from the bees and kept the rest of the half for the bees. You only take what you need. And then another company started coming in. They started seeing what they do. They wanted to grab control, like a regular big company would come in from a smaller company that's creating something good, and they ruined the whole thing. And then the bees started dying off. So going back to the Santa Barbara Film Festival 2012, 2013, I was helping promote those movies based on why we need bees.
Yeah, bees are, it's quintessential, man. When they stop working, we die as a species. That's it. That's the bottom line. When bees are the kings and queens of pollination. And I love what you just said. She would just take what she would need. If people had more of that mentality, just use what you need and eat cleaner. That's true. I've been changing my lifestyle the last 2 years. I remember when they first bottled water, and I laughed at it. I'm like, who's going to pay for bottled water? Whose dumb idea was this? And I'm drinking, when I was younger, you're mowing the grass and you get the faucet and You drink the water, you're like, no one's ever going to pay. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm paying for water through the city already. Now they're bottled. Holy crap, man. We've been paying for water for thousands of years, and now we're paying for it. But there is no more free. Nothing's free. They charge us. Soon they're going to hit us and charge us for air. They're trying to do that now with all these new carbon and deals and taxes that to breathe the air, we're going to start charging you. And I mean, to what end? And that's what I tell people. That's the end. They want everything that we can do. And once you're no good Social Security age, when you're first born, you get a monetary value. So you get your Social Security number. And they drop that on you and they say, Rich Wheeler just came into the world. He's up for sale, folks, $2.4 million. Where can this guy go? Hey, and then somebody from the Bilderberg group buys me. And so now they have my Social Security number. Oh, man, by the age of 28, Rich Wheeler is worth $1.6 million already, and his value is $7 million to the world. Hey, man, I want to buy him. Let's trade. I'll give you a Kobe Bryant and two. And I'm being serious. They trade us like cattle and cards. And up until about that, the more you're worth and the more you put into the world, the higher your value is to them to trade. And this is a game to them. And when I tell people this, they laugh at me. First off, when you realize that the U.S. is not a country, we are nothing but a business and have been for at least 100 years, that the IRS isn't even an entity of the government, that it's a part of the European central bankers. When you start putting all these through the Federal Reserve as well, there's nothing federal about it. And when you put all of this together, you realize, yeah, I'm not a part of it. You're not a part. None of us are part of this club. And we're just all spinning our feet. And unless what are you going to do? Well, we got to come together. Like now, we've got to stand up. It can't always be peacefully where I want peace and love because Big Rich loves everyone. I do. I don't care. I don't follow politics as far as Democrat or Republican. What I do is follow truth. I tell everybody, they go, what party do you subscribe to, Big Rich? I subscribe to the Truth Party. If I can find truth in it and value, then that's what I'm going to do. If I can find lies and deceit, which is all over the place, if you just open your eyes, grandfather said it best, 1 + 1 = 2. That's it. And when the math adds up, who can lie to you about that? You know, you just got to want to believe the truth. And a lot of people don't want to buy into that. And so that's where people say, oh, well, you're a strong person. No, sometimes I think I'm stupid because I get more flack and there's more of this. People pushing back at me because I'm trying to open eyes and tell the truth. And it's just horrible sometimes. I don't know. That's how I feel.
Rich, what makes you happy these days?
What makes me happy? Telling stories, listening to people. I'll make this one quick. I met somebody that I thought I was going to change their life. And they changed mine. I was in my bread truck and I was at work and I was driving down the road and I saw what looked like to be a homeless man. And I wrote about this on Facebook and I got out. I'm like, hey man, would you like a few loaves of bread? He's like, well, I don't need it, but if you're giving it, I'll take it. I'm like, well, you have somewhere to go, somewhere to stay? He's like, oh, yeah. And then so I was like, are you homeless? He goes, no, my son. He goes, I'm free. I'm like, free? What are you talking about? He's like, you want to see something interesting? I'm like, sure. He's like, park your truck and come with me. Now, I'm kind of weirded because I'm like, all right, well, I don't know that. I just met him. I'm trying to be the nice guy. I just delivered to a Dollar General. It's small town Oklahoma. There's a lot of forests around. I don't know what can be around the next corner. This guy could be a murderer. I don't know. So I'm like, no, I'm going to put this in God's hands and I'm going to follow. So I went with him. And then as I started going in, I saw a little camp. And there were dried meats hanging up. There was a little garden. There was an older lady. There were a couple other men. And they all looked downtrodden, like they all look homeless. And I asked him, I'm like, this is your home? He goes, absolutely. It's been my home for 20 years. He goes, I used to be a lawyer. And I got tired. I came home one day and I'm like, why am I doing this? For what? He goes, I'm going to go live off the land, and I'm just going to, and it's not even going to be my land. I'm just going to take a piece of land and they can kick me off it when they want to kick me off. And he goes, we've been in this particular spot for X amount of years and we have not been moved. And he goes, I asked that you keep it that way. And then I asked, can I take some pictures? Then he got upset a little bit. He was like, no, put that thing away. No pictures. You don't tell anybody about this or anything. So he gave me more knowledge and wisdom and love in that moment than I could have ever thought about giving to him. He brought me into this little cardboard / tent. They introduced me to his wife. We met out here. She used to be a clerk. They all had backstories, and all of them were out there because they wanted to. They were tired of the 9 to 5. They didn't go out there because they were crazy, because they all had their minds, were well articulated, well educated. They offered me some of their dried meats, which I tasted, rat, possum, whatever. And I was willing to break bread with them, to show them that, look, I want to know more. Give me, because now you got my interest peaked. I want to come be a part of this because this is life at its true essence. That's what I took away from that. So what makes me happy is learning and living and just loving people, man, for what that day taught me. That I thought I was going to be the one doing something good when they did nothing but bless me 10 times over that day. So, and I share that story a lot now, man. Sometimes I'll get broken up when I talk about it, but it was an eye opener because that guy said, man, I have never been happier in my life. Never.
But the thing about that, and we got about 2 minutes, is that we're supposed to be helping people. That's the whole premise. You know, I tell people when I want to help their business or whatever, I'm like, I'm in service to help you. We have outlets. Let us help you. You may not be here tomorrow. But a lot of people, as you know, Rich, as you started talking about it in last year, and I started talking about in 2018, October 3rd, people can't see. And they go, well, how do you know these things? I'm like, I have intuitive knowing. It's no different than a woman's intuition. It's the same thing. I've been very, very close to spirit for a long time, but it took me a long time to develop that. Mm-hmm. Strip everything away. You have to lose things a lot of times. And when you've done that, then you don't really have too much fear, but you really, like I said, my goal is just to help people. It really is, and that's hard for people to fathom. Right. The last question before we get going. Social media links. What's your favorite band? What's your favorite movie? And what do you hope to accomplish between now and the end of the year?
Favorite band? I really don't have one. If I have to say, I'd say Bob Marley. That's my go-to. Favorite movie is definitely Monty Python's the one where they're all acting like knights. King Arthur. What was that? Was it
The Holy Grail?
Yes, The Holy Grail. The one where the Black Knight's there and he chops off his leg and he's hopping on the one. That slapstick comedy always gets me. I love it. That was great. And then where do I see me going into 2021, man? We're working on a lot of things. I got a book coming. It's a book of poetry. That's going to be my poetry that I've written since I was a kid to now. We're putting together the 30 best poems that I think. And then with each one of those, I'm going to put a little paragraph describing where my mindset and where I was at in my life at that time. We're working on a TV, BRRS Media TV as well. A lot of things are going, man. So, and just like you guys, just living, learning, hoping. I know things will never get back to normal, but if we can get things get this normal, get people understanding this is where it's going to be, probably late into 2021. So strap in, get used to it. And I love that book back there, Sharon. I just want to say, I got 2 from him. I gave one away. I had them on a Q&A live on Facebook. Those guys, the whole band, Kenny Wilkerson and all of them, those guys are nuts. They were a riot. And I'm giving this book away tonight on our live show. I do my live show with Kim Aston. We'll be giving this copy away to what we chose as the best comment during that whole segment live. So hopefully the winner will be tuned in. And if not, also, I just want to give a big shout out. This is Glover Teixeira. We're going to be giving a few of these away coming up soon, going into 2021. He is our official sponsor on BRRSmedia.com. Glover Teixeira, he is a monster, dude. He's over 40. He's got one fight left. If he wins that fight, he goes for the U.S. light heavyweight title. And the progression of his career, man, he's a living legend, dude. He's up there with the Gracies, and he's from Brazil. Him and Wayne are good friends in real life. The guy, I've never met a more down-to-earth person. And so check him out on Glover Teixeira, MMAandfitness.com. You can get that off of BRRSmedia.com. They're doing virtual training as well. So check that out, guys. And Brian, thank you for having me on your show. You guys got a great thing going here at Movie Reviews and More. I love you, Sherry. You know that. You're like a friend from that. I remember the first time that we met and we talked, I was like, man, I just feel like we were spiritually connected in another life. So you've always been kind and honest with me. So I appreciate that.
Well, Rich, it's been a pleasure and honor to have you on. And to be one of the podcasters in the world, one of the best ones. That's an honor. That's with that.
Yeah, that was a trip, man. I saw that. I saw all our names and I was like, holy crap, man. Okay.
Hey, good for you. And so because you're smiling and Sherry's smiling, we have to say this because there's a lot of people that are going through a rough time like now. So I have to always say this. If you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours because the world needs it. Rich, what you were talking about and what we both have been kind of alluding to, this is why I say that, because he's still got a rough patch coming and a lot of people may not be prepared for it. Some people that we know may not be here tomorrow, unfortunately. So I say these in my Buddhist prayers all the time. So with that, again, I have to say it. If you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours because the world needs it. That's why I say that. Rich, Sherry, thank you, everybody, and we will see you next week.